Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm coming at you with a bit of a podcast, and I actually wanted to touch on the topic of Chrisette Michele and forgiveness towards her and why I have forgiven her and why I think we should too. So for those of you who may not know, Chrisette Michele is an R&B singer who came under fire back in 2016 because of her performance at the presidential inauguration, and not only that, but her doubling down on her performance as the reasons why she performed. Now, I am going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to get into the reasons of why I've forgiven her. So basically, Chrisette Michele states that she's going to perform at the inauguration, and of course, her fan base told her no. And upon her fan base telling her no, she basically still goes and she performs at the inauguration. Now, after her performance at the inauguration, she is hit with a lot of backlash. She was drug up and down Black Twitter. She has been called out, and of course, people use the typical terms. These so-called woke folks use the typical terms: coon, sellout, bedwenching. And honestly, at that point, at that time, I had to somewhat agree because I definitely felt like she was doing this for the check. Now, she went on media outlets such as The Breakfast Club and such as CNN to basically double down on why she performed at the inauguration. And her response to that was, and her statement was, oh, she was trying to build a bridge. And although I see a level of what she was saying at that point, I definitely could not get with it at the time, and in a way even today, because her thing was, she said we need to be on stages. We need to get on stages, and we need to get into spaces where we may not be seen, or we may not be respected or accepted, and we need to make some noise. Basically saying we need to go into the line of fire. And it's almost as if she said that she would perform at a KKK rally, or she would go to, white supremacist rallies, because she feels like, okay, maybe they just need to see us, and maybe we need to heal, because that was one of the things she said on her second Breakfast Club appearance after all this. She said, people need to heal. We were all hurting, and which we were, and we need to heal. But I believe she went the wrong way of doing it. Now, after she doubles down on her reasons why she performed, what I find funny is she went on The Breakfast Club and CNN with her, straight Eurocentric hair, wig, all dolled up and everything like that. Then she came out to say, oh, she didn't even meet Donald Trump. She didn't even meet Donald Trump. She didn't even shake his hand. She was basically snubbed at that inauguration. And you had people kind of pointing fingers and laughing, saying that, ha ha ha, you got your N-word wake-up call. Now, part of me actually agreed with some of the people who were saying this, because we warned you. We told you not to do it, and you went on your own as an individual. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Now, personally, when she said this was all to build a bridge, I kind of understood what she was saying, but at the same time, I had to say, I don't believe that there was a build the bridge thing, because if you really wanted to build a bridge, if you really wanted to get out there, if you really wanted your voice to be heard, your best bet was to go to the Women's March, because there were more people at that Women's March than were at that inauguration, okay? Now, I will say this. I do think that in some ways there are ways to get into the line of fire, or, go into spaces where you are not respected and challenge the system. But Chrisette Michele needs to realize that she is not the Martin Luther King of the R&B music community. She is not the face of activism in the music community or the music industry. Her platform is not that big, and I personally think she would have been better off performing at the Women's March. And this is why I believe, why other people believe, that you really did this for a check. And it looked like, symbolically, this looks like a lot of shucking and jiving and tap dancing and buck dancing for, that money. And I personally believe that she did this for the check. Now, her second Breakfast Club appearance, she says that because when she performs, she is performing for a check. No matter where she is performing, you do get paid to perform. That is her job. That is her career. We get that. But it really does seem that you were doing this solely for a check, because one, your career is not like a Beyonce's or a Rihanna's or a Jay-Z's or Kanye's or anyone who's really popular right now. It really feels like that's what you were doing it for, because honestly, to be honest, that is all you got out of it. Now you go on, you double down, and then months later, we don't hear from you. And now you post online that you had a miscarriage, that you had suicidal thoughts until then. And the funny thing is, I was actually thinking of her at that time. And then you're hearing, and this is when I found out on the Breakfast Club, how she wrote about having suicidal thoughts because of, the Trump inauguration, or because her label dropped her and she had a miscarriage. Now, I don't necessarily play with suicidal thoughts. I have been there myself, so I don't necessarily play with suicidal thoughts, okay? Now, partially, I wanted to agree that she just could not handle the backlash that she was getting, so it could possibly lead to someone having suicidal thoughts, because maybe she couldn't expect or didn't expect the backlash to be as severe as it was. My heart honestly went out to her, because I have been there, or I have felt that way, because when people keep coming at you and you don't know why, well, in this case, she kind of did know why, but when people keep coming at you and you just wanted to stop, it probably may get you to a very low place. Now, a long time later, she goes to Roland Martin and the Breakfast Club again, but this time she has her afro hair out. She has her Afrocentric afro out, wearing her natural hair, and she's dressed in all black. And it definitely looks like she has been in a bad place. She looks and sounds very defeated and beaten down and broken down. And honestly, I understood why people were very skeptical. Even I was, because part of me said, first you go on the Breakfast Club and CNN, double down, wearing your wigs and, wearing your different color clothes and things like that. And now you're coming back after all the backlash with your Afrocentric hair and you're all black, like you're a Black Panther or something like that. Like now you're with your black fist up, trying to be for the people, apologizing. So I understand the skepticism coming from people, because it looked as if, okay, now that the check has cleared, now you're trying to get back into the arms of your black fan base, or trying to get back to black people and get your black fans back, because it seemed as if you were trying to cross over because you didn't listen to us. It seemed like, well, okay, if my black fans don't want me, let me go over there, get a check, and get some new white fans. And that's definitely how it came off from how you talked the first time versus how you are talking now. And looking back on it after rewatching her Breakfast Club interview, I have to say, maybe this woman did have good intentions, but she just had a very poor lapse in judgment, and she should have really listened to her fan base, okay? And like I said, I have no problem with us trying to build a bridge, but I think just because you are trying to build a bridge, like Lovely T says, trolls belong under the bridge, not next to you trying to build the bridge. And although she wants to see the good in people, not everyone is worth trying to build with, okay? Whether it be inside or outside the community, not everyone is worth trying to build with. And people at that inauguration, or specifically Trump, are not those people, okay? They are not the people worth trying to build with. And I honestly think you did try, but like you said, you should have listened to your fan base, because honestly, like I said, the main thing you got out of this was a check. And this is why people believed that is what you were really after. And this build a bridge thing was just a ploy to try to make it seem that that's not really what it was. But looking back on it, she probably, she has been very All Lives Matter. So she has had some level of being problematic. And I personally think that this is one of the reasons she got the backlash that she did. And like I said, I believe that it's not wrong to believe in the concept of all lives matter, but you can't bring that up in a situation where we're talking about, Black Lives Mattering, because we already knew at that time, even today, all lives matter is used as a way to silence the effect of a specific groups of people. It's a protest to a protest, and it honestly is not really effective, nor is it really trying to show that all lives matter, okay? It's really just a protest to a protest, but that's beside the point. But I really do agree. She needs to realize that she is not the Martin Luther King of this R&B or this music community. She tried to be an activist and put on a social justice warrior stance in a different way by trying to show that, you know, she could do this. And I just think she was the wrong person, and she realizes that she was the wrong person. She honestly may have had good intentions, but she failed to realize that she probably was not the one for this. And maybe that's kind of a good thing, because maybe excessive social justice warrioring shows that it's not good for Black women. And that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. Now, here's a side note. It's funny how she got a lot of scrutiny and backlash for just performing at the inauguration, but she performed next to a gospel artist by the name of Travis Green. And I knew about Travis Green because I do listen to gospel music, and I actually was on church choir, and we actually sang one of his songs, and he is known for a song called Made a Way, and he is a very talented young man, but he also performs with Chrisette Michele at the inauguration. But it's funny how he didn't really get a lot of scrutiny or backlash for doing it. And maybe it's because his fan base is small and he's unrecognizable, so nobody's really checking for him. Nobody, you know, especially people who don't mostly listen to gospel music, are checking for him. So maybe that's the case. And also, he's a man, and I think he's very young. He's a man, so that male privilege happens. This is what I mean by Black men. You do have a certain level of privilege. You have straight cisgender male privilege that actually works for you, or at least within this community. Because again, look at Kanye. Look at Kanye, okay? You could say that you have canceled him and Chrisette Michele, but look at how Kanye is still standing. And maybe because his platform is big, maybe that's a part of it. But at the same time, some of you same guys who called out Kanye were some of the same ones who were rocking Yeezys not too long after. Kanye comes out with something controversial and then something new drops. He comes out with boopity scoop and you guys make jokes about it. You guys give him some form of attention. But it seems like we're going to crucify Chrisette Michele for forever and ever and ever. And this is one of the reasons I forgave her, because I really had to look at this and say that it's funny how Kanye, he's meeting up with Trump. He's breathing the same air as Trump. He's wearing MAGA hats and doing controversial stuff for clout and to sell some stuff, because someone pointed this to me out. When Kanye does something crazy or controversial or something, it means he's about to drop some new music, a new album. He's about to come out with a new clothing line. And I hear people say his stuff is ugly, but whatever. And it's funny how we either let it slide, we either still support him, or we just write him off as crazy and don't completely cancel him, or we make excuses for him. Again, tying into the Black male privilege that happens in our community. We will give 10 million and one excuses, even if we call him a coon or we call him a sellout or anything. We still, especially low-key or high-key, still support them. We find ways to do it. And we make 10 million and one excuses for the men, but it seems like we are holding Black women, or we hold Black women, especially when they don't have the safety net like some of the rich Black men like the Kanyes and the Jay-Z's of the world do in certain aspects. We hold Black women to a higher standard. And I feel like because we are so used to Black women standing in solidarity with Black people, or Black men for the most part, to see someone like her, or to see any Black woman really cape for Trump in any way, shape, or form, we definitely hold them to a higher standard. And if they quote unquote betray us in any way, shape, or form, it could be overt, covert, symbolic, or whatever. If Black women quote unquote betray the Black community in any way, shape, or form, then we are willing to crucify them without forgiveness forever. But we will make 10 million and one excuses for the men, for other races of people, for people we like. Okay? Because I noticed that with especially Black men, I noticed this with Black people, we give excuses to people we like and free passes to people we like. But Black women are held to higher standards. But I have to agree, Chrisette Michele, you should have listened to your fan base, because your career is not as big as a Beyonce's. It's not as big as a Kanye's. It's not as big as a Jay-Z for you to mess up a couple of times, even in the smallest way possible, and bounce back. It's not like that. Now, I agreed with some of the backlash. I am not going to lie. I agreed with the backlash to a certain extent, because your fan base warned you, and now here you are complaining about how your label dropped you. And I think she said it was an indirect thing to the inauguration performance. She said her label got bought by someone, and now she is an independent artist, so she's working independently because her label that she was under got bought by somebody else. And, that in itself is just a business move she made. But it seems funny how all of this happened just after, or a few months after, the inauguration performance. So Black people, especially those who gave her the backlash, looked at that as a form of karma. It's funny how you did all of this and then not too long later, you're going backwards. You got dropped by your label. Nobody's messing with you right now. They're still crucifying you. But I had to go back and say this. The reason Black people are upset, like I said, with the betrayal from Black women, the reason we are upset is because we did not want any of our people breathing the same air as this man. And it's kind of like when we boycott. We want all Black hands on deck in terms of a boycott, in terms of cancel culture. We can't have anyone backsliding or falling back, or we can't have anyone outside of the community doing something that we're against, because it doesn't make our movement or what we're trying to say or our message strong enough. So when you performed as a Black woman, as a Black person, when we're supposed to be standing in solidarity against that, or against being anywhere near his administration, his human being self, we just did not want any of our people breathing the same air as this man. And when you performed, even after we told you no, we took that as a form of betrayal, and we took that as a way to mean you're selfish and you are looking at this for some monetary gain. But then I had to really step back. Years later, I'm looking at this and I'm saying it's 2019, almost 2020. The man is in office for 4 years. I'm saying her performing at this inauguration did not put this man in office. She just performed, she gets canceled, she practically gets blackballed. This man is still in office. You have to think about it. It's not like she voted for this man, or so she claims. Okay, all she did was perform. Her performance did not put that man in office, okay? Her performance did not leave him in office for 4 years. I feel like we want to look for an outlet for our rage, and for some reason, it seems like Black women, or the more marginalized in the Black community, are always an outlet for Black anger and Black rage when it comes to certain things like this. So of course we have to bash her and criticize her and, put her down, because her performing, again, did not put him in office, and he is still in office for 4 years. So we are trying to put 2 and 2 together and find some things that are triggering. And we look at Chrisette Michele and other people who have any form of involvement or association with this man as an outlet for our anger. But this is why I had to forgive her, because I'm saying, okay, well, it's funny. We forgive Dylan Roof, or certain people forgave Dylan Roof, okay? We forgive Dylan Roof. Some certain people forgave Amy Greiger. We saw how that judge was, reading Bible verses, and the brother hugged her, and the bailiff, was brushing her hair. But I'm saying we didn't give Chrisette Michele like this. So why are we crucifying her? Now, this is honestly where I have to somewhat blame Black people, or hold Black people accountable for her actions of performing. Now, if you say this is for the check, which is honestly how I agree with this, I agree that in a way she did it for the check, because that is all she gained from this. You say she did it for the check, but my thing is this. If we had supported her music and supported her and supported all underrated Black women, or Black people we claim are so underrated in music or in the industry, if we had supported them the way some of you support, let's say, Kanye, no matter what he does, say if you canceled him or not, in a way some of you guys are low-key still supporting him. If you supported her the way you do, let's say, a Beyonce or a Cardi B or whoever you support that's big right now, if you gave her that same support and other underrated people that same support, maybe she wouldn't have had to do it, quote unquote, for the check. Maybe if we supported her music like that to a point where it could have been big as a Rihanna or a Beyonce, then maybe she wouldn't have to feel the need to perform. And even if she did, because you have some people who are big and they don't need to get checks, but are just greedy and money hungry, even if she did, then, you could at least say it wasn't your fault. But I do think we should be held accountable, because first, we hold Black women at higher pedestals or higher standards. We hold Black women at higher standards, or the more marginalized within the Black community at higher standards in the Black community. Yet again, we don't put them on high pedestals. That sounds very ironic to me. This also goes to show how we think with our emotions. And I know that there are people who have forgiven her and said, hey, you did nothing wrong. There's nothing to forgive. It's because you realize that a lot of you guys were thinking with your emotions. And as did I, because let's just be real. We cannot have any form of symbolic betrayal or symbolic setbacks, especially when we need to stand in solidarity against a certain cause. And it doesn't look good when even one of us, backslides or walks away or, goes against that. Because a lot of people like people in the Trump administration or like Trump, they're not looking for the 10 million black people who say no or who are against them. They're looking for the one black person who are for them in any way, shape, or form, even if it's symbolic. And I do think we take symbolism as a form of realism, and I think we should really analyze that, if you catch my drift. So I have forgiven her. I think black people should too. We either give free passes or forgive everyone else. I am forgiving Chrisette Michele because, like I said, her performing did not put her in office. Okay, unlike the people who actually voted for him that helped put him in office and other factors that you may believe put him in office, her performing did not do that. Either way, if any other president were to perform, okay, and she performed, what would we be saying about her then? All she did was perform. So yes, that's all I have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video or podcast. Tell me what you think about these podcasts. If you love them, if you hate them, do you want to see my face or not? I don't know. So thank you guys for tuning in. And I hope to see you or talk to you in the next video.